are not native to Puerto Rico, and but they do grow very well because Puerto Rico has a marine tropical climate. Here's a map of the island, and the route that we took. We flew into San Juan, and generally what we do is we drive down 52, and this is all, hold on here. I think my battery's dying in this thing, that's what's going on. Yeah, I knew that was going to happen. Go back. Anyway, we went down 52, and then we went all the way across the southern part of the island through Juanadías, Ponce, Guayanilla, and then all the way up to Mayagüez. And in the area that we visited where the farms are, the area where we go is right in the middle here around San Sebastián, Lares, right in that area, and all the way, this whole area right there is where most of the tropical fruit farms are. This is the exotic farms.
I have another pointer.
Yeah, I appreciate it, yeah. Yeah, I had rechargeable batteries in it, and I forgot. I left it in my car, and the heat just, okay. Okay, so anyway, this is the route, the southern, this is all toll road, and it's a beautiful highway. It goes all the way across the southern part. So you can make it from San Juan down here in about 2.5 hours. And this is the whole area where we visited. And then we would also, this is where we stayed in the hotel that was in Mayagüez. Okay, population of Puerto Rico is just under 4 million. It's about 33 miles wide by 100 miles long. About 1,000 miles from Miami, about 2.5 hours. And language, Spanish is the main language, and English is spoken in most of the major cities, especially in the tourist areas. And religion, Roman Catholic. Ancestry there is mostly Spanish, European, Taino, and African. And for example, my family, a lot of the people in the center of the island came from the Canary Islands. Even though it's part of Spain, it's very different. They're called Isleños, and they migrated in the mid-1800s, a lot of them. And the climate, I said, is tropical marine, so it could be considered zone 11B, probably, is, you know, real super tropical. And it does, there's high mountains in the center of the island as high as 4,500 feet, so it can get into the 40s way up there, but it will never freeze. I think the coldest it's ever been in Puerto Rico is about 45. The main industries are pharmaceuticals, electronics, which is also not as prevalent as it used to be. Tourism, of course. Puerto Rico is still the largest producer of in the world, and clothing. And the main agricultural products are coffee, various fruits. They grow a lot of mangoes that you'll see in Publix and things like that. Plantains, pineapples. But they're also looking for alternative crops. And this is the farm that we visited offer a lot of these fruits, and hopefully we'll see some of these in the future, now, you know, as commercial products. And the people are known as Boricuas. Boricuas is the Taino Indian name for the island. It was Borican. So everybody knows the nickname for most Puerto Ricans is Boricua. Here's what the plate looks like. Puerto Rico does it better. Puerto Rico lo hace mejor. This water, they have many, just like here, they have many different plates. This is the group that went down, and you got John from Ocala, Harry Hausman, you got Brian Bruner, who lives on the island. He's an American living in Las Marias. You got Ian, who owns one of the really nice places that you'll see. Some of the staff that works for him. We had some visitors. You got Warren Condon from Miami. You got Jay Cotterman from Ohio. You got Gwen Betts, who lives in Puerto Rico. You got Robert from Missouri, and you got Ethan from California. He flies all the way from Central California and does these trips with us, and he loves it. He goes every single time. Here's what the roads look like when you're traveling across the island. The first trip we did, we stopped at the Pork Highway, which is an area where they have all these barbecue, all these pork places. It's not really barbecue. They make pork on a spit, and we stopped there to eat. But this time we just traveled all the way through. But these are typical of the roads that you'll see across going to Mayagüez, and you'll see a lot of nice scenery. And in some of these rises, you'll see the ocean way down at the bottom. It's really cool. And the speed limit there is in kilometers per hour. And also the gasoline is sold by liter, so it's different from here. First place we stopped at was Jardines Eneda. Jardines being like garden, Eneda Gardens. And this is one of our favorite places. This is probably probably the premier nursery on the island. And they sell, besides ornamentals, all kinds of fruit trees. And at very good prices. You can buy grafted trees there, $8 or $10. You can buy a nice grafted tree of whatever it is, whether it be Mamey apple, Mamey Americana, or mangoes, or you can buy a grafted rambutan tree there for about $30, which would cost you $125 anywhere else. I mean, they're really hard to graft. At certain times, I've heard they've had even other rare species. They've got kakapuri, all kinds of sapodillas. A lot of the avocados from Puerto Rico are well known throughout the Caribbean, very nice varieties. They sell all kinds of them there. You'll see things like cashew. You'll see all kinds of other unusual fruits from the Amazon region too at times. Yeah, the city where this is Cabo Rojo. Here's something we ran across. This is something growing and fruiting in a pot. This is a cut nut. This is, forgot the name of this one right now, but it's originally from Polynesia, and it looks like a giant macadamia nut. And this thing was fruiting in a pot, Barringtonia algilis. And it's just amazing, this thing. Look at the inflorescence on this. It's like a giant loofah sponge. The thing was huge. And beautiful leaves on it, too. You can see these things. Here's, of course, the breadfruit tree. And these grow all over. There's literally hundreds of thousands of fruiting breadfruit trees in Puerto Rico, everywhere you look, especially in the eastern side of the island. And they're popular. They're sold in restaurants. You can buy either fritters or chips, or they have the boiled fruit, whatever they make them. And they also make even a flan out of this. And everywhere you see, because of the abundant rainfall and no cold, these things will just get massive and just produce huge gobs of fruit. That's the fruit up close. Breadfruit, also called panapan on the island. And this is the seedless one. And they also have the seeded variety also. This is a grafted rambutan tree. They sell these there for about, I think it was $30 at this nursery. And believe me, these are very difficult to graft, but there's a guy in the middle of the island who's become an expert, and he's supplying a lot of the growers with it, a lot of the nurseries. This is a rambutan fruiting in a pot. First time I've ever seen that. And I've got one in my property in Coral Springs right now. Not fruity, but I do have a grafted one. And that's pretty amazing just to see a small tree. This thing was not more than 3 foot tall with fruit on it. One of the hardest things that's been found to fruit in Florida. So I'm hoping one of these days I'll get lucky and fruit mine. Okay, this is one of the popular native fruits in Puerto Rico, which is the mamoncillo, or the canepa, or the Spanish lime. And this variety is one that Sheehan here is familiar with. And it's called Jose Pavon. And it's a good fruit. I mean, it's not, I can't say it's my favorite fruit, but living on the island, they're very popular. They sell them in piles all over. And during the season, on the side of the road, everybody will have a pile of Spanish lime. And this particular one is a very good variety. These are all selected cultivars that were found by Jardines Ceneda. I'll show pictures of a few more a little bit later on. This is the seeded breadfruit, which is also not as popular as the seedless one, but it is grown and nutritious, and everybody has tried these. They're pretty decent. It makes a nice, all kinds of dishes you can make with this. Anybody recognize this? Cashew, sure. This is, that's the cashew nut. This is right there, which is toxic until it's properly prepared. And then the apple here itself, they use it to make juices and different things. Very popular in Brazil. In Puerto Rico, it's called pahuil. But I haven't tasted a sweet one yet. Unless you really know, you have to really prepare this well to drink it. But it's, you'll see the Brazilian markets here, they'll sell the caju juice. But it is certainly not something you just want to bite into. But there's a really on it, it's pretty looking fruit. They come in orange, red, different colors. This is the Wilson Pompano avocado. We found this at Jardines Ceneda also. And this is a rare variety that was almost extinct until a few years ago. They found a few trees and they started propagating it. And there's now some in Miami, and Aneda's growing it out there too. It's a really long avocado. And these avocados, the most long-neck avocados, are popular in Puerto Rico, and you'll see them at the roadside stands. This is anato. I showed you this is what's used to flavor rice and different things. See those very abundant in the island. This is another variety of the Spanish lime. This is called sasa, also being sold and propagated by Jardines Ceneda. And they're both very good. I tried this and the Jose Pamon, and I thought they were the best ones I've ever had. I can tell you that. At Jardines Ceneda, they have a large property, and we had been to the nursery a few times, and we never gotten to see the rest of the property. This last time we went, they gave us a tour. The daughter of the owner, who passed away a few years ago, and we were just amazed some of the stuff they had. It's a very, like I said, nice property, not really hilly. It's easy to walk, and they would just have rows of rambutans, mangosteens, whatever it happened to be, and she just let us go through whatever mangosteens we found we could eat. There wasn't a whole bunch at this time because the season was already passing, but we got enough where everybody got to try a few of them anyway. It's pretty cool though to see full-size mangosteen trees fruiting. Well, we get back to Mayagüez after Jardines Ceneda, and we stopped at our favorite street, Mendez Vigo. That's where the Holiday Inn is. I mean, the Holiday Inn, Howard Johnson, sorry. And this is our base for the trip. And what we do is we stay here every night, and then we go out during the day for different, all the different field trips that we do to the different farms and nurseries. And it's, nice air-conditioned rooms, and it's right there in the middle of the city. It's a little noisy, but it's a good place to stay, and the management there treats us very well and lets us do things like bring durian in or bring whatever fruits, and they don't get upset, and they let us clean, if we bring in trees and whatever we want to do, they really don't give us a hard time at all. Actually, they encourage it. And they can let us use the hose and whatever else. Just nice people, and what we'll do sometimes when we're there, when we have plenty of food, we'll bring it, we'll give a tasting so the employees there can get to try some of these things. And there's a lot of interest now. The owner was telling me that, not the owner, the manager, that he would like to eventually set up some kind of agritourism or work with groups like ours to do like agritourism trips where they come in and visit, the farms in the area and stuff. And I said, well, something we got to look into down the road. Across the street from the hotel, which makes it nice also, it's a great little bakery called Rico Mini. And if you get tired of eating stuff at the hotel and you don't want, they just have great bread and sandwiches and stuff at prices, less than here for almost everything, nice and fresh, everything made. They have espresso and all kinds of good stuff right there at very reasonable prices. This is the plaza right back of the hotel, the main plaza of Mayagüez. And this is Plaza Colón, named after Christopher Columbus. And a lot of these buildings were from the early 18 or mid 1800s. And it's just a nice place. You walk around the evening, people playing dominoes and stuff. This is one of our favorite places right there, close to the hotel. This is, it's called Rex Cream. It is a ice cream shop, and they sell all kinds of tropical ice cream flavors, or tropical fruit flavors. Tamarind, you'll see guava, passion fruit, mango, and one of my favorites is the corn ice cream, the maíz. And they make the corn ice cream and you put cinnamon on it, and it's really delicious. So the first time I ever tasted it was there. And at times they'll have different other flavors, like I think the guy said once they have avocado, and they make whatever flavors they can find on the different fruits. That's what the corn ice cream looks like, with the cinnamon sprinkled on it. And they give you a nice big cone like that for, probably I think it's like $1.25 or something. You can, versus $5 for cost of Coral Springs. Okay, this is our favorite place to visit, which is Ian Crown's Panoramic Farm. This is in a little town called Las Vegas, close to Las Marias, which is the bigger town. And Ian's got, I think it's about 90 acres there. And not all of it's planted out. And it's hilly, but it is a gorgeous farm. He's been working on this thing for years and years. Ian's, this farm has been featured in the New York Times, in many travel magazines and stuff. Not so much that he offers tours and stuff, just that it's just an amazing place and what he's done. This is a business. We get lucky to get invited there, and because he knows us, he knows part of our group, but this is not a place you can just drive up to and go check it out. It's not a tourist area, a tourist farm or anything yet. But maybe eventually he'll do a little more of that. But for now, it's a commercial place, so you have to treat it as that, and it's something that we hope that he continues to do this. But here's what was there when we drove up. These are just crates and crates of rambutan that he had just picked, and these were ready to be shipped to a local supermarket chain. And beautiful sight, and we got to eat plenty of these. Also, one of his specialties is mangosteen. He's one of the few growers who is allowed to import or export fruit from Puerto Rico to the United States, mangosteens. Anywhere else you see fresh mangosteens in the United States, it's illegal. You have to, it's very few places out that you're able to do that. And this is just, he's got, I think he said about 1,000 trees in total. And not all of them are fruiting, a lot of them are smaller trees. And this is what the fruit looks like uncut. And it's just a really, really nice fruit. It's really hard to describe the taste of it, but it's known as the best fruit in the world, although, you know, it's an opinion, but I put it in my top 10, but I can't say it's the best, but it is very good. And it sells for prices as high as, I've heard somebody say $75 a pound, but it's certainly, you can get it for less, but it's certainly a premium fruit. And just walking through this farm, you'll see beautiful plantings of acai palms and all kinds of garcinias. And this is what I consider one of the best fruits in the world. This is pulasan, which is related to lychees and rambutan. And these things are amazing. It's like a giant lychee, but with a taste of peach and just amazing, beautiful fruit. And they come in many colors, black, brown, and this is something that's, I could just sit there and eat these by the bag load. And just, it's very difficult here. Nobody's been able to fruit this year, although I've seen some pretty good sized trees. And I heard somebody in the west coast of Florida actually got one to flower. But they are very sensitive to the soil. So this is something that you would have to really have build up the soil, because they don't like, you know, the alkaline soils for sure. But they are really one of the most delicious, and I'll show you some more pictures of these as we go later on. Here's us. This is my friend Jay Carterman from Ohio. And this photo, I was like, Jay, are we in heaven just picking them off? And the owner of the farm just let us eat as many as we could. And these are just, you know, something that they just dribble down your neck, I mean, in your clothes, and they're just juicy and just delicious. This is another one that I had seen in Central America many times, but I hadn't seen in Puerto Rico before. This is the peach palm of the Pei Valle. And this is eaten as a vegetable. What they do is they boil these, and you eat them almost like a potato, and you put they dip them in like mayonnaise or different sauces and stuff. And it's very nutritious. It's got a lot of oil, and it's just a very popular food throughout most of Central America and northern South America. And we got to taste them there. Afterwards, during one of the second time we went to Ian's farm, he boiled some up, and they were pretty good. I enjoyed them, and I don't know if there's many cultivars of these. There's probably some that are better than others, but I thought they were pretty good. Anybody recognize this? Acai. The acai palm fruit, and this is the popular thing that you'll see in so many different juices and dishes and desserts all over in the supermarket now. And Ian's been growing them experimentally there just to see how they grow in his conditions. And what he noticed, I mean, these things are like marbles. They're really hard. You think they'd be soft? So he thinks they really shouldn't be that way. Maybe it's in the conditions that he's growing them in, they should have more pulp on them. But like I said, I couldn't imagine eating these things. You'd have to smash them with a hammer because they were that hard. But there's something that's, like I said, he's doing wrong, or maybe there's a different way that they process them.
Noel?
Yes?
They have to be soaked in warm water.
Oh, that's what it is? Okay.
They're always rock hard until they soak in warm water.
Now that's what he's, okay, I got to tell Ian that next time. I thought he would have, read a little more about it, but that's what he told me. He said he tried to bite into a couple of them, and I said, man, they were like marbles. Really hard. I mean, forget it. This is some of the articarpus. It's neat. We got to see, this is a meringue, and that's a seeded breadfruit, and you had a jackfruit. So we had quite a variety of the articarpus species that we're able to find there. It's pretty neat to be able to see all together like that and all these different things. This is the madroño, which is a Garcinia relative, and these are very nice fruits, related to mangosteens. And at the hotel, when we let people try pulasans, we let people try durian, mangosteens, and a few of the staff at the hotel said this was their favorite. These are good size, pretty good sized fruits too. Much bigger than the ones that I've seen here in Florida. Now this is a Rollinia, and what happened about maybe about 7 or 8 years ago, Ian saw some of the big Rolinias that I was growing here in Florida, and he wanted to try them in Puerto Rico because he hadn't seen any as big as the ones that I was growing here. So I sent him a good-sized order of seeds, and he planted them out. And now they're all fruity. So I got to walk through, and he named it after me, his little grove there, which is pretty cool. And he started trying to find a market for them, but as you know, Rolinias, once they ripen, they turn black at points, and you have to market them pretty quick. But I've seen these in Puerto Rico and other places, smaller ones, and they call them anon there, which is the name for sugar apples. But what happens is it's a generic name, so they call everything anon. But I'm sure they get really good quality fruits there because the soil is very good and they get lots of moisture in this area. This area gets as much as 150 to 160 inches of rain a year. This is the yellow rambutan, which is just a different cultivar of the regular rambutan. And I thought it's a little different than the red ones, but a nice flavor to them. And they're not as common as with the collectors down there, but it's a nice fruit for sure. Beautiful. That's Ethan from California with a nice bunch of them. There's Harry Hausman from Davie. And this is what the red ones, of course. You can just go by and pick. These are all over the place. These grow. They look like Christmas trees with these fruits. I mean, loaded these trees down to the bottom where they almost break the branches, loaded with these fruits. And a lot of these are prime varieties, prime cultivars that were brought in from Southeast Asia. And they're just not seedlings. So Ian and a few of the other growers have been able to obtain either budwood. I think they brought in grafted trees. So a lot of them are really good select varieties that are the better producing ones. And good tasting fruits too. And they are variable. We would go across and you'll find some that are just fabulous. Some of them are just a little bit bland. And then of course they planted out plenty of seedlings also there. So you'll see varieties that you may get approved varieties there also because they are plenty of seedlings. And I'll talk to you about one here in a little bit. And durian, here's one of the cool things. Where else outside of Southeast Asia will you see a durian tree? This tree had, I think Ian told me, 130 fruits on it. He's getting a premium. They're getting so many calls because durian's become, it's always been a popular fruit in Southeast Asia, but there's a lot of people vegans and people that are into the healthier diets that really love the fresh durian, which is almost impossible to find in the States. And he sells fruits, some of the bigger durians, as much as $100 for a fruit. And he said he could sell every single fruit. They get bombarded with calls. He's got to turn people away from fresh durian. He's got people wanting to fly these all over the United States. So FedEx overnight, they want it. I don't know how everything he does according to the law. So I don't know what he's able to do or not. But there's certainly he's got a lucrative crop here, and his trees continue to produce quite a bit. But it was just really cool to see these things. And here's just a variety. We got durian, some meringue, but it's just cool to be able to see them like that. And here's Ian cut one open. And there are dangers. I mean, these points, a heavy fruit is hard to hold in your hands. I mean, it actually will just to the point where you almost want to wear gloves. That's how. And if one ever fell from a tree, it could kill you or badly damage and cause some major damage. In some countries, they cut the durians before they totally ripen, but in a lot of other places, they let them drop to the ground. I think Thailand, some people like them a little more bitter, so some countries, I think it's Thailand, parts of Thailand, they cut all the fruits before. Here, where they're growing these, you're almost forced to cut them before they totally ripen because they're being grown on like ravines, almost on the sides of hills. So if you let them fall, they're going to fall 200 feet down, and you'll never find the fruit, especially if they get lost in the vegetation. So Ian cuts them. He has the workers cut a lot of them. Because I had somebody mention it, said, "Oh no, you have to let them fall." I said, "Well, if you let them fall, you'll never find one. You'll never be able to get to eat them." And that's a problem with a lot of these fruit trees in hilly mountainous areas. Is that somebody will plant these trees and may not get to eat the fruit for years until they figure out whether they're falling or they get too big and you're not able to reach the fruit. It's not like here where you've got level ground, you can throw a ladder. Down there, it's a little bit more difficult. So here's what they do when they cut them open. And for those who haven't tried these, I highly recommend them. I gave a lecture a few months ago down at the Broward Rare Fruit Council, and I brought in 3 pounds of durian fruit. And we got pulp, it's frozen pulp, and everybody got to try it. It does smell, but a lot of the ones, it's got a strong aroma, but the ones that you find in the States are a variety called Mantan, which is very low aroma to it, so it doesn't have that really putrid smell like they talk about in the Far East, although to me it's a nice aroma, even the strong ones. I've tasted and eaten fresh durian like this before. I enjoy it. And it's like a creamy vanilla, a little bit of onion, and just a strong flavor, but excellent. And there's all kinds of varieties. I mean, there's cultivars of all types of these. And this is a picture from a friend of mine, Lindsay Gazik, who has a website called You're the Durian. If you guys get a chance to see this website, You're the Durian, she describes a full year that they spent in Southeast Asia, and the goal was to eat durian every day of the year, fresh durians. They traveled to Borneo, Thailand, Philippines, Malaysia, everywhere, and they were able to pretty much complete the quest. They were featured in Smithsonian Magazine, and it was a heck of a trip, and I've gotten to talk to her many times, and they are total durian fanatics. But I asked her how, she told me once, I asked her, what's your husband's favorite food? Is it durian? He said, no, he likes Rolainia as his favorite fruit. But even though they still think this is one of the top of all. This is our friend Ian, who owns Panoramic Farm. This is a view from his condo. And he said during certain times of the year, they'll see whales reaching right off the beach. It's pretty cool. This is a little island right off the coast. All right, this is meringue and Artocarpus odoraturismus, and this is a very nice fruit. It's a jackfruit relative, and it's just got to me, almost a cross between a jackfruit and a sugar apple. Although it's not as soft, but it's a really nice, tasty fruit. And most of the time we've been there, we haven't had a chance to find right fruit. Either we're too early or we're too late. So this last trip, this fruit picture is actually from the trip before. I just want to show you what it looks like inside. We didn't find one on this last trip. We just had the wrong timing on it. But it's a nice, very nice fruit. I think it's one of the premier Artocarpus. This is the Madronio again. This is, I think this was at Felipe's, if I'm not mistaken, one of the other places we went to. Or maybe it might have been Jardines. And a little up-close shot of it. Bill Whitman was one of the first ones that I saw growing this fruit here. Hart, have you seen it? Any good ones over here?
Bill Whitman's and then the Amazon.
The Amazon, yeah. But the ones in Puerto Rico are very good. They were large, and they had a decent amount of flesh in there. And like I said, just very, very nice tasting. This is a friend of ours that another grower of all kinds of rare stuff. This is Felipe Shea. And he's actually an American who's been living in Puerto Rico, and he married a Puerto Rican lady, and he's been there for probably more than 30 years. Incredible collection of Theobromas, which is a cacao family, and everything else. Felipe's got Artocarpus. His place, you just walk through his farm, and it's very hilly. And Felipe's 86 years old, and he wasn't the time I took this picture. And in some places, we had trouble keeping up with him. I mean, he knew these hills back and forth. He'd walk around with a big old sharp machete and a basket to pick fruit. And he has a few people that work for him in the farm, and they keep the place up for him. And he just, like I said, just an amazing collection. This is one of the other nice fruit that we got to eat there, Garcinia magnifolia, which I don't know a common name for this, but it's a large, pretty large fruit. Also, really, really nice taste to it. And almost like a little lemony marshmallow kind of taste, and close relative of the mangosteen. And this is the Achachairu, which is also a Garcinia relative, but we're not sure that it's still undecided what exactly it is. Yes.
I was thinking how nice it would be if you had a ruler in each picture so we could get the size.
Yeah, I could say, well, just to give you an idea, this one here is some of these were the size of a tennis ball. The Achachairu was about, probably smaller, I'd say the size of a pretty good size lychee. No, probably bigger than a lychee, maybe something about that size. And really nice taste. And they're growing this commercially in Bolivia, which is where it's probably native to. And believe it or not, in Australia. The Australians call it the achacha, I think they call it over there. And there's large plantings of this already in Australia. And they're trying to corner that market for this thing and become like the next kiwi over there. I don't know if it'll become that popular, But I think it's a really nice fruit. Should grow well here. From early indications, seems to be cold, a little cold tolerant. But we'll see. I've got one planted in my mother's house in Fort Lauderdale, and I've got one in a pot in my place, and I'll probably eventually plant it out. But if you ever get a chance to get your hands on one of these, it's a nice fruit, and I think it'll fruit in probably 4 or 5 years. Okay, this is more on Felipe's farm. This is a Theobroma relative or a cacao relative called Piranha. Not sure which particular species this is, but Felipe's probably got one of the best collections, could be in the world, of these things. I mean, he's got them all. He brought them in from Ecuador, from Jim West Place, from all over from South America. And you'll see these things just the way they come right out of the trunk, that cauliflowerous trait that they have to them. And most of them have a little edible pulp, not a huge amount, but some of them are pretty good. This is another rare one that he had. I forgot what this is. Some of these, I don't even know if he remembers what the names were. He got them from Jim West in Ecuador. But just beautiful, unusual flowers. And most of them will fruit there in Puerto Rico easily. It's very different from the regular Theobroma flower. There's at least one of these fruiting, not this particular one, but a Piranha in Fairchild's Tropical Plant House. They've got them there. This is cacao, of course, chocolate, Theobroma. And there's plenty. These do very well in the island, although it's not commercially grown in Puerto Rico anymore. But it's very to a small extent, probably, because it's a lot of disease problems with this. Something called witch's broom that's caused a lot of problems in Brazil. But this is where the bulk of the chocolate of the world, and this is where it comes from. This is chocolate. The beans of this, or the seeds, are roasted and ground, and this is what everybody loves. But it is problematic to grow, and there could eventually be a shortage of chocolate worldwide because of all the pest problems that we have. Okay, this is another farm that we visited, Juan Miranda. These are all within probably 20 minutes of each other. Juan grows, he's also got 30 or 40 acres at least, and a nice big greenhouse. And he's growing a lot of pulusan, rambutan, heliconias, and probably a dozen other neat fruits. But this particular one, this is a pulusan that he grew from seed. And this thing, he calls it the maruca. And it is fabulous. To me, it's the best pulusan. And to me, pulusan's probably the best fruit that I tasted there, and this is the best of those. So the first year we went, there weren't any fruits on the tree. Sometimes you just get an off year, you get rain, or during the flowering time, or something happened, and there weren't any fruits. But this year he had a decent crop, so as soon as we got there, he climbed up the tree and started throwing them down to us. And we're like kids, just running around trying to grab each one, and then when one had fallen to the ground, we'd jump all over the place to try to find them. That's what they look like. See, this is a darker, more purple fruit. And that's a close-up of it. These things are amazing. I mean, this is a $20 a pound fruit you could get for all day for fruit aficionados. They are that good. Excellent flavor. And truly, I can say maybe my favorite fruit of the whole time I was there. These are the rambutans. As I mentioned before, they just grow like crazy. I mean, these things are just heavily fruited, and he just let us go through and eat whatever we wanted. You fill a backpack up with them. Close-up of them. So it's like a large lychee, a little drier than a lychee, and it's a little different flavor, but it's a nice substitute in places, especially like Puerto Rico, where growing lychees is very difficult, or as is most of the tropics. These are a fine alternative to the lychee, as well as the pulusan. I would rather go the pulusan, but if I had an area there, I would grow these also. And just some of the different ornamental stuff that he had to his place. All of these farms, besides the tropical fruit, they have these beautiful collections of ornamentals of all kinds. Look at these heliconias. And these people go out and collect. This part of Puerto Rico, due to the intense collection of heliconias, they probably have one of the best collections in the world in this corner of the island. Because they have some of the best collectors. Brian Gruner wrote a book about heliconias. He was the president of the Heliconia Club International or whatever. And Sherry, who's one of the other places we'll see in a couple minutes, she's also a big collector. So they've got some outstanding cultivars of these things. This is Montosa Farms. This is also owned by Brian Gruner, who's an American. I think he's originally from New Jersey. And he bought this farm from Juan Rivero, who was a renowned tropical fruit collector, used to be employed by the University of Puerto Rico in Mayagüez. And Juan, over many years, planted dozens or more varieties of all these kind of rare trees, including durian, mangosteen, and he was getting ready to retire and he wanted to sell the farm, so he convinced Brian to buy the farm. So Brian opened up a little business with it, and they sell grafted trees, mostly seedlings, but he's growing ornamentals also. And he could probably do really good with the fruit trees, but they just haven't dedicated as much time to grafting some of these things. But it's a beautiful place. That's Brian there. And this is a cacao relative, another one. This is cupuaçu, which is originally from the Amazon region in Brazil, or probably just say the Amazon region. It composes many countries there. And it almost has a metallic taste to it. And it's they make a kind of white chocolate. They call it cupulate. And this thing is mostly, I've drank it as a milkshake, and it's got a unique flavor, a little metallic flavor to it, very good, very popular in Brazil, and also, believe it or not, very popular in Japan, where they make all kinds of stuff, and they buy a good portion of Brazil's production of the cupuaçu. Howard, what's your experience with it?
Well, I'm surprised to hear that it tastes metallic.
That's what I interpreted it as.
It is extremely sour. It's a wonderful flavor, but it's best used as a jam or as a juice,
Right.
Where it's diluted and sweetened. I once ate about half a cupuaçu in one day, and my teeth hurt for more than a week.
Wow.
I probably removed some enough.
Yeah, I think the taste is very good. And if you go to the Brazilian markets, either here in Palm Beach or in Broward, and you'll find that they sell the frozen pulp, or they'll have, they have a few other products, but mostly I've seen it as like a milkshake, and they'll prepare them right there. It's a unique flavor and well worth trying. Anybody recognize this? Nutmeg, yes, that's it. And then nutmeg and the mace. And we were just walking across the trails at Brian's place, and there was a ripe fruit on the trees. And all kinds of ice cream beans, guamá. And we saw these, there's big giant ones, smaller ones, and Brian had, the couple we tasted were okay, and it grows like a weed, it's a leguminous, so it grows and it's fertilizes the soil at the same time, which is nice. But it's a decent fruit. That's just something I would have to have a lot of acreage to plant this. And more of the heliconias, the different varieties that they had in the different places. And as you're walking through the farm, this is at Brian's place. We walked all the way down to the river, and it's quite a walk. I mean, it's probably a 45-minute walk, and it's easy going down. But coming back up, it was probably 90 degrees, and the humidity was 95%. But it's just beautiful because they've got all kinds. He's got just all kinds of heliconias and ornamentals and fruit trees planted throughout the entire property. And of course, we went during the hottest time of the year. We went in August. So it's a lot more enjoyable there, but you won't find the fruit, during different times of the year. And this is Brian's got a little nursery, and he allowed us to go through and buy whatever we wanted or pick whatever. And there's Jay looking at an abiu, and but most of the stuff he had that day would happen to be seedlings. He used to graft a lot more. I hope he does that. One of our last stops, we went to the TARS agricultural station in Mayagüez, and this was a station that was used to be an hacienda, which was like a farm, and must have been some pretty rich people who live in this place. This was a private home at one time in Puerto Rico, and they probably had sugar cane, which was mostly the dominant crop in those days. And I'm sure attached to this, there was probably 600 or 700 acres of sugar cane at that time. And then as the city moved in, they started cutting down the farm, and then eventually, when the U.S. came in 1898, they took it over and made it an agricultural experimental station. And nice grounds, and right now what they do is plant it out with all kinds of fruit trees, and it's a pretty large property. And it'll take you a good half day if you wanted to walk the entire thing and see everything. You can do a self-guided tour. But we got lucky, and we had Sadu, which is one of our friends down there, who gave us a guided tour. And if you walk along, you'll see mangosteen trees. This is an Anona relative called Uvaria rufa, which we found pretty interesting. It's a decent taste. It's not as sweet as a sugar apple, but it's a good fruit. I'm actually growing seedlings of it here. And just one of those very interesting ones. This is from this is an Southeast Asian fruit. And just a nice one to have, a curiosity fruit. This is Garcinia Bethany, and it's a little tart, a little sour, but just so you can see that mangosteen look to it and that Garcinia look. Another one of the I hadn't seen before. And just in the back of the station, we went up to one of the restrooms, and there was a truck full of dragon fruit there. Because besides this agricultural station, the University of Puerto Rico has, and combined with USDA, they have a large experimental farm, which we were not allowed to see. We're trying to get the ability to get out there one of these years, but that's where they have the really cool, interesting stuff. They just haven't allowed us the opportunity to go see it. But this came from the experimental farm. And this is, it's about probably half an hour away from here. Another thing we saw, we're walking across, nice big Hispaniolian tarantula. It was pretty cool. Walk real slow, you just keep away from them, but they're not really dangerous or anything. They eject their little hairs, and they tend to be like stinging hairs is what they do. They really don't have that much of a bite to them, or they're not poisonous. All right, Sadu, who is a friend of ours here and also an exotic fruit grower, been here for many years, originally from Austria. And he's a native because he's been there so many years. He's got a garden of all kinds of rare things. And it's renowned, but it's hard to get into the place. He only lets certain people in there at certain times, a lot of rules and things, because he's afraid of people, I don't know, for liability or whatever. But for this time, he let us go into his nursery. And he's a great guy, believe me. Sadu is somebody that, you go there and he'll give you the shirt off his back. I mean, he's a great tour, and he really knows his stuff. And he's written a couple of really interesting books, but we would like to eventually see more of his place. And he's got a little nursery that he's had in the front, so he allowed us to go and buy some really unusual trees. I mean, he had all kinds of rare artocarpus, garcinias, and stuff that you really would have a hard time finding. And I don't know if he sells fruit. Not sure about that, but he does have all kinds of really, really ultra exotic trees if you're looking for stuff that nobody has. Has a little better shot. And these trees are all in amazing condition. He's got a staff there that knows how to grow these things, and he uses really good soil. I mean, the trees, I didn't see really a bad-looking tree in the whole place. And we got a little bit of walk through to the front of the property anyway. And we're all looking around all these rare palms and things, and just make for an interesting time, especially people that are, I know a little bit about palms and other than the fruit trees also, so it's just neat to see some of the stuff that you don't get a chance to see much here. Next stop was Sherry, Vivero Anones, which is, it's a farm and nursery that, in Las Marias also. And here's what she had for us when we got there. You got mangosteen, rambutan, you got, these are Petit Valle. Actually, no, that's beetle nut. I'm sorry, that's beetle nut is what that was. Langsat, which is, it's a mahogany relative. One of the best fruits from Southeast Asia. If you haven't ever tried these, and they're difficult to find fresh in the States, excellent, excellent fruit. Almost tastes like a super sweet grapefruit, but very enticing, it's a very good fruit. And we have, of course, Spanish lime. They have black sapota de cacao. And she had a cat here with some of the local bananas in the box here. And of course, mangosteens. She actually didn't have that many mangosteens on her farm when we went that day, but she was able to buy these from a neighbor. And so she had them for us. And there's the Langsat up close. It's called a flor. It also grows right out of the trunk, but like a little bunch. And very interesting fruit. And it has been fruited in South Florida. Besides Bill Whitman, a couple other people have gotten it fruited. And there's actually a fruity tree right now in Fairchild's Whitman Pavilion. Although what I heard from Richard Campbell is most of these things that are fruit in there, people pick them before they even ripen. So, including probably the only Chempedak, which is an Artocarpus relative, jackfruit relative, the only one that's probably fruited in the United States. And just before it was ready to get ripened, somebody took it. So nobody got to try it. At least the staff there anyway. And probably picked before it was worth eating. There's a close-up of it. It almost has like a little grapefruit look to it, although it's not at all related to grapefruit, but it's just got like I said, a really unique sweet taste. Okay, here's a place that I got to go to because after we drove back to San Juan, I stayed for a few more days, and the group left back to the States. And I was able to spend a couple days there and with my family who lives in the Luquillo area, which is close to San Juan. And Gwen and Ray Bentz, who I mentioned earlier, they have this beautiful farm, almost like a 3-tier farm that you walk down, and they've got some neat stuff planted out. There's Gwen and Ray, and then she's got also heliconias, and the whole place is planted out with all kinds of gorgeous ornamentals. Here's her mangosteen tree, which I think she said it had flowers. I don't know if it had set any fruit yet, but I think she said there was a couple small flowers on it. And take a look at the property. It just slopes all the way down. And she's got all kinds of rare bananas and vanilla, fruiting vanilla. And she was able to hand-pollinate this to get the thing to fruit. And it was pretty cool to see that. And anybody recognize this? It's an Anona relative. That's Soncoya, Anona purpurea. And this is the first time I've seen this one anywhere. And it has fruited here in South Florida, but it's rare occasions. It has to be mostly hand-pollinated, which she did hand-pollinate. Here's what it looks like inside. And I've got seedlings of this. I've got probably about 5 or 6 seeds that she sent me. It took about 6 months to germinate. Yeah. But they finally did. They all popped out. But it's interesting. I think she said the taste, it was a little scant on pulp. She said it was kind of stuck to the seeds. But she said it was okay, but not, anything better than we're growing here right now. I mean, not as good as an Atamoya or a sugar apple or a Rolinion. But just something different. And the new growth on the trees, it's like a wine color or like a reddish color on the new leaves. Very different from the other Anonas. Here's Gwen's place. A little further look down there. Like I said, she had plantings of she had rambutans and citrus and all kinds of other stuff. And she also has a guest house there, and she rents the guest house, and you're allowed to, when you stay there, walk through, and if there's fruit, you can pick fruits and do whatever. And it's pretty close to San Juan. There's another place that I went to without the group. This is the Yunque Rainforest, which is right there, real close to Gwen, close to San Juan. And they have beautiful trails throughout the rainforest. These trails were built in the 1940s, and they keep them up pretty good. And you're able to walk through, and you get that really tropical rainforest look everywhere you go there. Beautiful rivers, and some of these rocks have Taino petroglyphs that are probably at least 1,000 years old. And you get some of these beautiful waterfalls. This is a famous one, La Mina. From the road, it's about a 45-minute hike to get there. And it's just beautiful. And that water is ice cold. And there's all kinds of tourists. I happened to get a shot when everybody was just either coming out or something, but normally there's 3 or 4 people in here, at least, or more. In the real hot days, you'll see a lot more than that even. But just gorgeous. You see some of the red rocks, and there's granite in Puerto Rico, and you'll see a lot of different types of rocks and stuff. It's pretty cool. And as soon as you leave Yunque, on a nice hot day, of course, they put this business right down when you leave the place. It's a local rum bar, and they had nice cold Heinekens and whatever else you wanted there. Just a nice place to stop off from a hot hike through the rainforest. And this is my paradise. This is the view from my aunt's house in Luquillo. And her house is all the way on top of the hill. And there's breadfruit trees, coconut, she's got mangoes. Now she's got a grafted rambutan that I gave her. So I'm hoping I'll get through that in a few years. And just spectacular views. And this is way up, so you got to drive all the way down. And then she's about 30 minutes from San Juan and about 15 minutes from the rainforest. The rainforest, actually, this is part of the rainforest here. And if you want to read any more about this trip, this is in the Tropical Fruit News magazine from, it was about 6 months ago. And also, if you have questions, if you want detailed answers, if you go on the Tropical Fruit Forum, tropicalfruitforum.com, you can, there's articles that have different information, or you can ask questions on there about if you have any, thing. Or you can also just email me. And there's my email. And thank you very much. Any questions?
Do you have trouble with customs bringing in trees and seeds?
Oh yeah, no, you have to do, it's not easy. Of course, yes. You have to follow the rules. And it is definitely, there's all kinds of, you have to get permits, and it's certainly not as easy as you would think. It would be great if you could just bring stuff, but there are restrictions, and some of the stuff is really tough. Yes?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about, the Puissants, will they grow here?
Pulisans, nobody's fruited them here. Even rambutans, there's been only couple people that have done it. Pulisans, like I said, I saw a tree in the west coast of Florida that was probably about 5 foot high, 5 or 6 foot, and the guy told me he had already fruited once. He had it in a big pot.
Do you think it's a soil or a temperature?
So it's probably both. It's a fruit that likes almost 100% humidity year-round. And of course, we have several months of the year where we have dry, desiccating winds, and that's what causes problems with a lot of these ultra exotics, is they like 100% humidity year-round. Although in this area in Puerto Rico, you do get, they do have a definite dry season, but it's humid. It doesn't get as dry as it does here, for sure. Yep. Anybody else? All right. Thanks.